The alarm sounded just before dawn. Not a bell. A howl. Sharp. Fractured. Wrong. Lyra froze. Heart hammering. The door burst open. Kaelin filled the frame, eyes silver and sharp. "Come with me," he said. She barely had time to react before he pulled her into a narrow stairwell. Stone pressed close. Dust and the scent of earth closed in. The passage was small, too small. Forced proximity. A tremor ran through the ground. Dust fell. Somewhere deep in the keep, a roar. Massive, furious, alive. "That was him," Lyra whispered. "Yes," Kaelin said, voice tight. "And he's coming for you." Her chest tightened. The line between survival and sacrifice had narrowed. To this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. The night Lyra was chosen, the moon hung low and swollen, its light thick as milk across the stone courtyard. She felt it before she heard her name. A tightening in her chest. A subtle pull beneath her ribs. The ancient instinct every Omega learned to fear. The summons. Lyra stood among the other girls with her hands folded neatly in front of her, head bowed as she had been taught. Linen clung to her skin, too thin for the cold creeping up from the flagstones. The air smelled of ash and pine resin, of old blood baked into stone. The pack gathered in a wide circle, alphas at the front, betas behind them, warriors lining the walls like silent statues. Torches flickered, casting long shadows that stretched and warped like reaching claws. At the center stood High Alpha Roderick. He raised his staff once. The murmurs died. "Step forward," he said. Lyra's heart pounded. For a breathless moment, she prayed, futile, childish, that the call had been meant for someone else. Then he spoke her name. Lyra of the Southern Lowlands. The sound of it echoed through her bones. She stepped forward. Each footfall felt like a small surrender. She kept her gaze lowered, though she could feel hundreds of eyes following her. Some curious, some hungry, some already mourning. Roderick studied her with the cool detachment of a man who had performed this ritual too many times to count. "Do you accept the honor of binding our pact to the moon?" he asked. "Honor." The word rang hollow. Lyra swallowed. Her voice came out steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I accept." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some bowed their heads. Others turned away. From the highest balcony, a presence shifted. Lyra felt him then. The Alpha King. Kaelin. She did not look up. She did not need to. His attention pressed against her like heat, like teeth at the nape of her neck. Every Omega instinct in her screamed, danger, dominance, submission, while something deeper, quieter, whispered curiosity instead. Kaelin descended the steps with unhurried precision. His boots struck stone in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The torches seemed to dim as he passed, shadows clinging to his broad frame. He stopped an arm's length away. "Lift your chin," he said. The command slid into her blood. Lyra obeyed. His eyes were silvered steel, reflecting the moonlight without warmth. A scar traced his jaw, pale against tanned skin. Power rolled off him in waves, controlled, contained, lethal. He did not touch her. "That one," he said, voice calm, final. "She will do. She will do." Lyra's breath caught. The words should have hollowed her, reduced her to a vessel for the ritual. Instead, something dangerous sparked inside her chest. Roderick bowed. "The moonlit sacrifice will be prepared." The crowd dispersed quickly after that. No celebration. No feasting. Just the quiet efficiency of a tradition perfected through centuries. Lyra was escorted through the inner corridors of the keep, her footsteps echoing too loudly in the narrow halls. The walls were etched with old symbols, names scratched out, claw marks gouged deep. She knew the stories. Saren, who lasted 3 nights. Eloan, whose scream carried to the forest edge. Maelys, who never screamed at all. No Omega returned. Her chamber was prepared with almost cruel care. A wide bed draped in white. A bath already steaming. Fresh garments folded neatly at the foot. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click. Lyra sank onto the edge of the bed, fingers curling into the fabric. Her pulse roared in her ears. This was how it began. The choosing. The offering. She pressed a hand to her stomach, where fear coiled tight, and beneath it something else. Not hope. Defiance. Somewhere deep in the keep, a howl rose. Low, powerful, restrained. The Alpha Kings. Lyra closed her eyes. And the moon watched. Lyra did not know how much time passed before the knock came. Not a servant's knock. A single, measured strike against the door. Her spine went rigid. Every instinct in her body sharpened, breath slowing, senses stretching outward. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavier. "Enter," she said, though her voice trembled despite her effort to steady it. The door opened. Kalen filled the threshold. He did not wear ceremonial armor now. Only dark trousers and a fitted tunic that did nothing to hide the breadth of his shoulders or the controlled power in every movement. Moonlight followed him inside, spilling across the floor like a living thing. He closed the door behind him. The sound echoed. Lyra stood slowly. She kept her hands at her sides, refusing the instinct to bare her throat, to kneel, to submit before being ordered. Kalen's gaze swept over her, not with hunger, not with cruelty, but with an unsettling assessment, as though he were measuring something invisible beneath her skin. "You are not shaking," he observed. "I am," she replied. "You simply do not notice." One corner of his mouth twitched. Not a smile. "Most Omegas beg," he said. "Or cry." Lyra lifted her chin. "And does that please you?" Silence stretched between them. Then, softly, "No." That answer unsettled her more than any threat could have. He took a step closer. The scent of him reached her. Cold iron, night air, something old and dangerous beneath it all. Her pulse betrayed her, skidding wildly. "You know why you are here," Kalen said. "Yes." "You know what happens to those chosen." "Yes." "Then why?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "Do you look at me as if you expect something different?" "Because she did." Lyra swallowed. "Because no one survives centuries of lies without cracks." The room seemed to still. Kalen studied her for a long moment, then turned away, moving toward the window. He rested a hand on the stone sill, looking out at the forest beyond the keep. "The sacrifice is older than this kingdom," he said. "Older than my bloodline." "Then end it," she said before she could stop herself. He turned sharply. "You think I haven't tried?" The words came out rough, stripped of polish. Lyra's breath caught. Kalen exhaled slowly, regaining control. "You will remain here until the night of the full moon. You will be protected. Federal untouched." "Untouched?" she echoed. "For now." Her hands curled into fists. "And after?" His gaze locked onto hers. Silver meeting gold. "After," he said quietly, "you will walk into the forest. To die. To face Thyrian." The name struck like thunder. The cursed Alpha. The beast whispered of in half-buried songs. The truth behind every vanished Omega. Lyra felt fear coil, but beneath it, resolve hardened. "And you will let it happen," she said. Kalen stepped closer again, stopping so near she could feel his heat. "I will," he said, voice low, "unless you give me a reason not to." Their gazes held, the air between them tight with something unnamed. For the first time Lyra understood. She was not just an offering. She was a test, and the Alpha King was already failing it. Sleep did not come easily. Lyra lay awake long after the torches outside her chamber dimmed, staring at the carved beams above her bed. Every shadow seemed to move. Every sound carried weight. The Alpha King's words replayed again and again, each repetition carving deeper meaning. "Unless you give me a reason not to." At dawn, a soft knock came. This one belonged to a woman. Lyra rose, smoothing her gown before answering. When the door opened, she found a beta woman standing there, dark-haired and sharp-eyed, carrying a tray of food. "Navara," the woman said. "I've been assigned to you." "Assigned." Lyra stepped aside. "Then come in." Navara moved with quiet confidence, setting the tray down before glancing around the chamber, as though cataloging exits, weaknesses, truths. "You should eat," she said. "The nights ahead will demand strength." Lyra studied her. "You've seen others like me." Navara did not deny it. "Yes." "What happened to them?" A pause. "Some went screaming," Navara said carefully. "Some went silent. None came back." Lyra's fingers tightened around the cup in her hands. And the Alpha King? Navara's gaze flicked briefly to the door. He carries their names like scars. Later, once Navara left, Lyra followed instinct rather than permission. She slipped into the eastern wing of the keep, where few guards lingered and the air smelled of dust and neglect. The walls here were older, etched with faded symbols and clawed markings half hidden beneath moss. She traced one name with her fingers. Saren. Another. Eloan. Melis. A presence stirred behind her. You shouldn't be here. Kaelin's voice. She turned slowly. Then you shouldn't have left the door open. His gaze followed her hand to the wall. Something dark crossed his expression. They trusted you, she said quietly. Yes, he replied. That is the burden. Then why choose me? He hesitated, just long enough to matter. Because you do not smell like surrender, he said. The word sent a shiver through her. She stepped closer. And you do not smell like a monster. The space between them tightened. Kaelin's control wavered, only slightly, but Lyra felt it. Do not mistake restraint for mercy, he warned. Do not mistake tradition for inevitability, she countered. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Kaelin turned away. Return to your chamber, he said. The forest listens. As he disappeared down the corridor, Lyra pressed her palm to the wall of names. She whispered, I will not join you. Somewhere far beyond the keep, a howl answered. The days blurred into something fragile. Lyra was watched, escorted, guarded, but never locked away. The Alpha King kept his word. She was fed well, given space, allowed to walk the inner gardens where moonflowers glowed pale against the dark soil, their scent thick and unsettling. Beauty grown from something old and buried. She knelt by the reflecting pool when she felt him. No footsteps. No warning. Just pressure. Heavy and unmistakable. You walk as though you belong here. Kaelin's voice cut through the night. Lyra did not turn. Her fingers trailed through the water, breaking the moon into trembling fragments. Perhaps I do. He stepped closer. Heat radiated from him, sharp and restrained. Her body reacted before her mind could stop it. Pulse quickening, breath shallow. You are calm, he said. Too calm. I am learning my fear, she replied quietly. Once you name a thing, it loses its grip. Silence. Then, you speak as if you plan to survive. I do. The words landed hard. Kaelin's gaze burned into her profile. Survival has a cost. So does obedience. That did it. A flicker of irritation, real, unguarded, cracked through his composure. You do not understand Thyrian, he said. What he is. Then tell me. The forest stirred. Leaves whispered. Kaelin looked away, jaw tight. He was an alpha once. Crowned. Revered. He bound his power to blood and moon until nothing human remained. Lyra stood slowly. And the Omegas? They fed the curse, he said. Each sacrifice strengthened the seal. Her breath hitched. So killing us keeps him contained. Yes. She turned to face him fully. And when there are no Omegas left? The question struck deep. Too deep. Kaelin stepped closer. Too close. His hand lifted, hovering inches from her cheek. He did not touch her. The restraint was violent. You are dangerous, he murmured. So are you. Their gazes locked. Silver and gold. Power and defiance. The air thickened, charged with everything neither would name. His scent darkened. Her pulse thundered. Kaelin dropped his hand. This ends soon, he said, voice rough. Prepare yourself. He turned and left before control failed him completely. Lyra remained by the pool, heart racing. She had seen it now. The fear beneath the Alpha King's crown. And it was far more dangerous than the beast waiting in the forest. The first touch was not intentional. That was what made it dangerous. Lyra was returning from the inner hall when the corridor lights dimmed without warning. Torches flickered. Shadows stretched. The keep seemed to hold its breath. Then a hand closed around her wrist. She gasped, but the grip loosened instantly. Quiet, Kaelin said. He pulled her into a recessed archway as footsteps echoed past. Guards. Unaware. Passing by. The space was narrow. Stone cold at her back. Kaelin's body inches from hers. Too close. She could feel his restraint like a living thing. Tight, straining, furious. "You shouldn't be alone," he said under his breath. "Neither should you," she replied. His jaw clenched. His hand was still around her wrist. Not tight. Not gentle. Controlled. "Let me go," she said. He did not. Instead, his thumb shifted, just slightly, brushing the inside of her pulse. Her breath betrayed her. So did his. Kaelin froze. The contact burned. A single point of connection that sent awareness racing through both of them. Alpha instinct surged. Omega response answered. Old. Primal. Unforgiving. He released her abruptly, stepping back as if scorched. "This cannot happen," he said. "Why?" she asked. "Because I am meant to die?" His gaze snapped to hers. "Because if I want you," he said, voice low and raw, "I will destroy everything to keep you." The honesty struck harder than any lie. Lyra swallowed. "And if you let me die," she said, "you destroy everything anyway." Silence swallowed them. Kaelin turned away, dragging a hand through his hair. "You don't understand the weight of this crown." "Then take it off," she said softly. He laughed. Once. Bitter. "And let Thyrian loose? Let the forest burn? Let every pack fall? Or let the cycle end?" she countered. He faced her again. His control was thinner now. Fractured. "You are forcing a choice that has no clean ending," he said. "I know," Lyra replied. "That's why it matters." Another sound approached. Voices. Close. Kaelin stepped back, distance snapping into place like armor. "Go," he ordered. "Now." She hesitated, then leaned close enough that only he could hear. "If I walk into that forest," she whispered, "it will not be as a sacrifice." Their eyes locked one last time. Then she turned and disappeared down the corridor. Kaelin remained in the shadows, chest tight, knowing one thing with brutal clarity. The line between duty and desire had already been crossed. And the cost would be blood. The alarm sounded just before dawn. Not a bell. A howl. Sharp. Fractured. Wrong. Lyra was halfway across her chamber when the door burst open. Kaelin filled the frame, already armed, eyes burning silver. "Come with me," he said. No explanation. No ritual language. Just command edged with urgency. She ran. The keep was chaos, guards shouting, boots striking stone, the air thick with fear and pine and blood. Something had breached the outer perimeter. Something old. Kaelin's hand closed around Lyra's wrist as they turned down a narrow stairwell. He did not let go this time. They descended fast. Deeper than she had ever been allowed to go. "The eastern seal is failing," he said as they moved. "Thyrian is testing it." Lyra's breath hitched. "Testing it for what?" "For weakness," Kaelin replied. "For you." The stairwell ended in a hidden passage carved directly into the mountain. Stone pressed close on all sides. The scent of earth and damp closed in. Kaelin pushed her inside and sealed the door behind them. Darkness. Then a single torch flared to life. The chamber was small. Too small. Bare stone walls. One narrow exit. Now blocked. No windows. No space to retreat. Forced proximity. Lyra became acutely aware of every inch between them. And how little of it there was. A tremor ran through the ground. Dust sifted from the ceiling. A distant roar echoed through the stone, vibrating in her bones. "That was him," she whispered. "Yes." Kaelin stood directly in front of her now, body angled protectively without thought. His breathing was controlled, but not calm. "You said I would be protected," Lyra said. "Is this what protection looks like?" His jaw tightened. "This is what defiance looks like." Her heart skipped. "You chose me." "I chose you because you could survive," he said. "I am keeping you alive because I no longer know how to do otherwise." Another tremor. Closer. Lyra swayed as the ground shifted. Kaelin caught her instinctively, one arm locking around her waist. The contact was immediate. Electric. She felt everything. His heat, his strength, the iron-hard restraint vibrating through him. His scent wrapped around her, dark and sharp and intoxicating. Neither moved. Neither let go. "This is a mistake," Kaelin said hoarsely. "Then why haven't you released me?" she asked. His arm tightened instead. "Because if I do," he said, "I will step away. And if I step away, you may die. And if you stay?" His breath brushed her temple. "Then the line is gone." The roar came again. So close now the torch guttered. Lyra's body reacted before fear could take hold. Something inside her stirred. Warm. Bright. Old. Kaelin felt it. His eyes snapped to hers. "What are you doing?" "I don't know," she whispered. But something is answering him. The air between them thickened. The torch flared brighter, responding to her pulse. Kaelin stared, not at the light, but at her. "You are not just an Omega," he said slowly. "No," Lyra replied. "I don't think I ever was." Another violent shake. Stone cracked somewhere beyond the wall. Kaelin made a decision. He pulled her fully against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head, shielding her with his body. "If he breaks through," he said into her hair, "I will fight him. And if you lose? Then the ritual dies with us." Lyra closed her eyes, pressed her forehead to his collarbone. For the first time, she did not feel like an offering. She felt chosen. And far above them, the mountain screamed as the ancient seal finally gave way. The mountain groaned. Stone screamed as if alive. Kaelin braced himself, widening his stance, body locked around Lyra as another shockwave tore through the passage. Dust filled the air. The torch flared, then burned white. Not fire. Light. Lyra gasped. It rose from her chest, not outward but inward first, as if something long asleep had opened its eyes. Her pulse steadied. Her fear drained away, not numbed, not erased, but sharpened into clarity. Kaelin felt it immediately. The power did not snarl or dominate the way alpha strength did. It did not claw. It answered. "Lyra," he said carefully, "look at me." She lifted her head. Her eyes glowed, not gold, not silver, but moonbright, pale and endless. The air bent toward her. Dust stilled mid-fall. The roar beyond the wall faltered, confused. "That's him," she whispered. "He feels me." Kaelin's throat tightened. "And you feel him?" "Yes." Her voice was calm. Too calm. "He isn't hunting me. He's reaching." The wall shuddered again. Stone splitting. Kaelin shifted, ready to fight. Lyra placed a hand on his chest. "Don't," she said. The word was not a command. It was a certainty. Kaelin froze. The moment her palm met his skin, something ancient passed between them. Not dominance, not submission, but recognition. His power did not resist hers. It yielded. His breath left him in a sharp exhale. "What are you?" Lyra closed her eyes. Images flooded her, moonlit clearings, wolves kneeling in circles not of fear but reverence, Omega standing at the center not as offerings but as anchors. Balance. Binding. Choice. "They lied," she said. "About us." "About me." Another roar. Closer now. Furious. "Thyrian. He isn't contained by sacrifice," Lyra went on. "He's starved by it. Every Omega fed to him stripped away what could have ended this." Kaelin's blood ran cold. Ended it how? She opened her eyes. By binding him. Not with blood. With consent. The wall exploded inward. Stone burst apart. A massive shadow forced its way through the breach, for blackened by rot and old magic, eyes burning with fractured silver rage. "Thyrian." Kaelin moved instantly, shifting, claws ripping free. "Kaelin," Lyra said. Not shouted. Spoken. The beast hesitated. So did Kaelin. Lyra stepped forward, out of his protection, into the open space between them. "Lyra." Kaelin lunged. The ground stilled. Not cracked. Not frozen. Stilled. Power rolled outward from her in a slow, devastating wave. The torch extinguished. Moonlight poured in instead, pouring through stone as if it were mist. Thyrian recoiled, not in pain, but recognition. "Her." Lyra's voice carried, not loud, not soft, but absolute. "You were never meant to be fed," she said to the beast. You were meant to be held. Thyrian's roar broke into something else. A howl. Agony. Rage. Grief. The magic around him twisted, peeling back layers of corruption. Not gone, but weakened. Exposed. Kaelin stared. Omegas were never powerless. They were the counterweight. The binders. The ones who decided when the line was drawn, and when it ended. Lyra turned back to Kaelin, light still burning in her eyes. They used us because we could choose, she said. And choice terrifies men who rule by force. His chest ached. The keep would fall. The ritual was already dead. And Kaelin, Alpha King, breaker of crowns, knew the truth with brutal clarity. If Lyra lived, the old order would not. And if she died, the world would burn. The council chamber smelled of incense and fear. High Alpha Roderick's robes swirled around him like storm clouds as Kaelin strode in, Lyra at his side. The elder's eyes widened, some in disbelief, some in silent fury. You dare bring her here? Roderick's voice cut like steel. You know the rules. The ritual is centuries old. Kaelin's gaze did not waver. He stepped forward, placing Lyra slightly ahead of him. The chamber trembled, not from magic, but from the intensity radiating off them both. She is not here as a sacrifice, Kaelin said, voice low but unyielding. She is here as the binder of what you refuse to understand. Murmurs rose like a wave. Roderick's face darkened. You betray the pack. You betray tradition. You betray your bloodline. Kaelin's claws flexed at his sides, but his focus remained entirely on Lyra. Tradition is death dressed in ceremony. Bloodline is fear dressed as honor. And I will no longer rule by fear. Lyra stepped forward, her hands steady. Moonlight shimmered around her, spilling through the high windows, reflecting silver off her hair. I can end Thyrian, she said softly, clearly, but with every ounce of power in her being behind the words. If we act together. But only if the pack trusts life over death. A silence fell heavier than stone. The elders exchanged glances, old alliances quivering. Impossible, Roderick said. A female Omega cannot. Cannot. Kaelin cut him off. She is the alpha we've always feared to see. The one we've punished because we don't understand strength that isn't ours to take. The chamber seemed to shrink around them. Every elder, every guard, every alpha and beta who had lived by the old rules felt the pull, the undeniable truth of Lyra's presence. Kaelin moved closer to her, side by side. If she dies today, the ritual continues. If she lives, it ends. And I will defend her with my life. That is my oath. That is my defiance. Thyrian howled from somewhere deep in the keep. The sound reverberated through stone and bone alike, a reminder of the stakes. The elders recoiled. Some turned away. Some bowed heads, unable to meet the gaze of the Alpha King who had just shattered centuries of expectation. Lyra lifted her chin, matching Kaelin's silver-eyed stare with her own moonlit glow. I am not afraid, she said. And neither is he. For the first time, Kaelin felt the power of choice ripple through the room. Not his alone, not hers alone, but theirs together. High Alpha Roderick's face twitched. Fury. Shock. Uncertainty. This will be remembered, he hissed. Kaelin smiled, not in triumph, but in grim understanding. Yes. And history will remember who had the courage to stop it. Lyra exhaled softly. The elders were watching, the pack waiting, and somewhere in the shadows, Thyrian's roar signaled the reckoning had begun. The ritual was no longer a secret. And Kaelin, the Alpha King, had chosen life over fear. The night was alive with thunder, moonlight slicing through clouds in sharp silver blades. Lyra stood at the center of the ruined courtyard, Kaelin at her side, every nerve straining. Dust and broken stones swirled around them as Thyrian emerged from the shadows, a hulking beast, for blackened and mangled, eyes silver with fury. Bind him! Kaelin roared. Now, Lyra! Her hands rose instinctively. Light poured from her chest, not fire, not flame, but a weaving of moonlight and will. The courtyard trembled under the pressure of her power, the air thick and alive. Thyrian snarled and leapt forward. Kaelin intercepted, claws raking at the beast, deflecting strikes that could crush bone. His strength and her power moved together, a synchronized dance of survival and dominance. "You are not feeding him," Lyra shouted, voice carrying over the roar of the wind. "He is mine to bind, not yours to fear." The beast faltered, confusion rippling through its ancient mind. The centuries of ritual, the endless sacrifices, it had never faced a counterweight like her. Kaelin grabbed her hands, anchoring her. "Focus." Moonlight poured from Lyra like a river. She felt every pulse of Thyrian's power, every fracture in the curse, every lost Omega's echo reaching out. Her chest burned, her limbs trembled, but she did not falter. Thyrian's roar became a howl of recognition. His rage twisted, then cracked. He collapsed to his knees as the light coiled around him, binding without pain, without blood. Not a prisoner. An acknowledgement. Lyra gasped, exhausted, as the glow receded. The courtyard was still. The wind softened. The mountain tremor ended. Kaelin fell to one knee, breathing heavily. He looked at her, chest rising, silver eyes wide with awe. You did it." "I did what was always ours to do," she said. Her voice was calm, certain, luminous. "We ended it." Thyrian rose slowly, no longer monstrous, but a shadow of the alpha he once was, subdued, tethered to the moonlight rather than fueled by sacrifice. The pack gathered silently around them, watching history being rewritten. The elders lowered their heads, defeated, powerless, witnesses to a truth they could no longer deny. Kaelin stepped close, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I swore to protect you," he said, voice low, raw. "I never thought I would be protecting our world at the same time." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "And you did." They stood together, their hands entwined, hearts still pounding with fear and triumph. Around them, centuries of oppression crumbled. The old rituals, the lies, the sacrifices, all of it ended in a single night. Kaelin leaned closer, forehead to hers. "You're mine, Lyra. Not by ritual. Not by blood. But by choice." Lyra pressed her palm to his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her fingers. "And you're mine. Because I choose you, just as you chose me." Above, the moon shone full and bright, witness to the first dawn of a new era. One not of fear, not of sacrifice, but of power shared, trust earned, and love forged in defiance of the impossible. The first light of dawn spilled across the keep, soft and unbroken. The mountain air smelled of pine, earth, and something new, freedom. Lyra stepped onto the balcony, Kaelin at her side. The courtyard below was quiet. The pack moved cautiously, hesitant to trust, yet drawn by the shift in power, the absence of fear. "Is it really over?" she asked, voice soft, still echoing with the weight of the night before. Kaelin took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "It is," he said. "Thyrian is bound. The old rituals are dead. And the pack will follow the truth now, not tradition." Lyra looked down at the courtyard. Faces that had once bowed in fear now lifted, tentative, curious. Hope flickered in their eyes. A whisper passed among the alphas and betas alike. The sacrifice would no longer claim another life. "Do you think they'll accept me?" Lyra asked, doubt threading her tone. Kaelin's thumb traced small circles over the back of her hand. "They'll follow because they have to. But they'll respect you because they see you." His silver eyes softened, and for a moment, the Alpha King, the man of power and dominance, was just a man standing beside the woman he loved. Lyra's chest swelled with a warmth she had never known in the ritual halls or moonlit corridors. This was more than survival. This was victory. Choice. Love. "Kaelin," she murmured, leaning into him. "We did this together." He wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close, protective and possessive in the way that only he could be. "Together," he echoed. Then, after a brief, charged pause, he pressed his forehead to hers. "And nothing can undo that." The breeze shifted. Moonlight and sunlight mingled, spilling over the balcony in a shimmering embrace. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the moment anchor her. She was not an offering. Not a pawn. Not a secret. She was the Alpha's equal, the binder of what was broken, the heart of the new dawn. The pack below began to stir, but there was no fear in the air now. Only respect, cautious admiration, and the beginning of trust. Kaelin leaned down, lips brushing hers in a soft, deliberate kiss. Not a claim. Not a command. A promise. Lyra responded, her hands threading into his hair, feeling the strength, the protection, the unwavering devotion. When they parted, it was with a quiet understanding. The night had tested them, the curse had tried to bind them, but in the end, their choice was stronger than any ritual, any beast, any crown. The new era had begun, not with fear, but with love, power shared, and a bond forged in defiance of the impossible. Above, the sun rose fully, spilling golden light over a keep no longer haunted by screams or sacrifice. The moonlit sacrifice was nothing but a memory. And Lyra and Kaelin stood together, unbroken, unstoppable, and finally free.